everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make an etching print from some Tetra Pak packaging and a few other items that you'll have around the house. First you'll need to get some tracing paper. You'll need a pre-drawn design. It's always easier to have that prepared in advance that you want to make your print of. You'll need something sharp that you can scratch into the Tetra Pak with. This is a large needle which I've put into a cork to make it easier to hold. You could use a compass that you might have. You'll need a wooden spoon, slightly rounded back, so that you can use that later to do your rolling with. First thing we're going to do is to make some paper damp ready for printing with later. Some good quality cartridge paper is what you need, something that will take some water and won't wrinkle up. So the thicker the better, something like 140 grams. You want to dip the paper into a tray of water, or you can just use your sink, really doesn't matter. Hold it up, shake the paper so that the water drips off the surface, and just leave it on the side for that water to soak in. That will be ready for later when we get to the printing stage. So now let's prepare our Tetra Pak ready for making our print with. Get your pre-drawn design, piece of tracing paper, place it on top, and then you're just going to use quite a dark pencil. 2B, if you've got one, will make it much better, and just go over the outline of your shape. You don't want to do any shading on this. All you actually want is the simple outline. When you finish doing that, you need to take your Tetra Pak. Any sort of packaging is fine. This is from a milk carton. You'll see that when you open it up, it might have some creases in. You want to try and get as flat a piece as possible, but if there are some creases in it, don't worry, try and use them in your design. You want to get your traced image and then turn it over and place it on top of the Tetra Pak. The next stage is to use your pencil, press down over the lines that you've already drawn on your tracing paper. What this is doing is it's transferring the graphite from your pencil onto the Tetra Pak so that the image is there for you to scratch into. So just go over the main outline of the main shapes. Check it's all coming through. Just needs to be there enough for you to actually see for doing your scratching in. Right, now you're ready to actually make some scratches into the surface of the Tetra Pak. So pick up your tool and just go through scoring through the surface. You don't want to press too deep. You don't want to cut through the whole packaging. And what you want to do is to, once you've got your outlines, you want to then consider what type of hatching techniques you're going to use so that you can add tone to your image. The more different techniques that you have, you'll create a better final print. So you want to do things like do some cross hatching. The closer together the lines are, that will result in a darker area on your print. So add all your detail. I'm going to do some stippling techniques here. Try and use a range of different mark making. You could use some scribble effects, different ones, all add interest to your finished print. Here's one I finished and prepared earlier. So when you're happy with what your finished print is, you've created all your marks, then you're ready to put the ink onto the actual Tetra Pak block. So I'm just moving over here to my prepared printing area. So printing can get quite messy, so I'd make sure that you put some paper down. You'll need a couple of pieces of fabric for putting the ink on and then wiping it off. It's always good to have some tissue. You'll also need to have some kind of plastic card, a store card, loyalty card or old bank card. They're all good. And obviously your printing ink. I'm using a water-based printing ink here. Just check that your paper hasn't got water on the surface I'm just going to wipe that off with a clean tea towel. You want it to feel damp to touch, but with no surface water. What you then need to do is to get some of your printing ink. You don't need very much. I'm just going to use a knife to get some out of this bag here. Put a few dabs of printing ink onto your Tetra Pak block. Then using a piece of old cloth, you basically want to rub it in a circular motion. The aim is to get the ink into all of those etched in lines that you've made with your sharp tool. You could use an old toothbrush. It's also useful for doing this. Just make sure it's quite a soft one. You don't want it to be too hard and abrasive and rip your surface. So once you made sure that the ink is well spread over the surface, take your card now, and now this is pushing the ink into those grooves as well. Once you've been over it once, then you want to take it off at the same time. So you can be putting it over the surface and wiping it onto some kitchen roll. The more ink you get off at this stage, the easier you'll find the cleaning up stage. Okay, when you've got as much off as you can, take another piece of cloth, and this time you're going to be taking all of the excess ink off the surface. Don't use any water. If you use water, you're just going to be diluting the ink, and it won't actually help with your finished print. So the ink will stay in the grooves that you've made. What you want to do then is to think if you want any really sort of white highlight bits, you can use a cotton bud here and just really polish up those areas that you want to be as light as possible on your finished print. You see how much ink you can still get off. I'm trying to speed through this a bit, just so that you see the basics. You can spend a lot more time getting this bit really good. Right, as soon as you've got your ink on, then you're ready to make your first print. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't put it down on any mucky area there, because it's going to make any black marks will come up onto your print. So place your Tetra Pak block, it's already inked up, in the centre. Carefully pick up your damp piece of paper and you're going to place it down on top of the Tetra Pak. I'm now going to fold this over, place it on top, and I'm just going to feel the edge of that block with my fingers so I know where I'm going to be rubbing. When you're rubbing it down, you want to be careful that you don't move the block at the same time. Try and keep it as still as possible, and you're rubbing over the surface. Using the spoon is replicating using a printing press. Obviously, if you've got a printing press at home, feel free to use that, but most people don't, so this is a way of doing it without. Now, when you think you've rubbed it down all over, you can have a sneak peek just to see if it's going to come through, if you've done it enough. When you think that you have, just give it another rub there. So then you can open it up and you can peel away to reveal your print. And there you go. What you'll see is, oops, the ink that was in the hatched lines has now been transferred onto your paper. It's as simple as that. That's your finished etching print using Tetra Pak.